The sky above the Ardennes front was a muted bruise of gray and violet, the kind of winter light that flattened everything into a single tone of exhaustion. Private Elias Crowley pulled the strap of his field bag higher on his shoulder as he trudged through the mud toward the 3rd Reconnaissance Company's forward command tent. His breath fogged in front of him, thin and strained like smoke from a dying flame. He had barely slept, but that wasn't new. What was new was what he carried. A scope with a cracked ring and one spidering fracture across the main lens, a device most men would have called junk. But Elias wasn't most men. He ducked into the tent. Warmth didn't greet him, only the stale smell of burnt coffee, sweat, and the hum of low frustration. Captain Rourke, his commanding officer, hunched over the operations map with his officers clustered around him. The battle had dragged on for days. German artillery had pinned their advance, and worse, enemy spotters were ghosting through the treeline, invisible until the moment American soldiers fell. Elias cleared his throat. "Sir. Permission to demonstrate a spotting technique." Rourke didn't look up. "Crowley, if this is about that broken lens again." "It's not broken, sir. Not the way everyone says." Elias stepped forward, meeting the stares of the other officers. He opened the case slowly, reverently, like unveiling a relic. The lens shimmered with that spidering crack, beautiful in a strange way. The fracture refracts light differently. At certain angles, it exposes shimmer distortions, movement, optical shifts, camouflage edges. He inhaled. "I can see things with it that normal scopes miss." Murmurs. A scoff. Lieutenant Marks muttered, "We're not gambling artillery coordinates on some weird optical hallucination." "It's not a hallucination," Elias said louder now, though not angrily. "I used it on patrol yesterday. I marked 3 ridge points, and 30 minutes later, German fire came from all 3. Rourke lifted his head, rubbed his temples. "Crowley, look. We need hard intel. Not creative theories." Elias swallowed the frustration. He had always been the outsider, the quiet one who noticed too much and spoke too little. The lens had become his companion, maybe the only thing that understood the way his mind worked, parsing reflections, distortions, fragments of patterns. He clicked the scope together, hands steady despite everything. "Sir, just give me a chance. One position. One demonstration." Before Rourke could answer, the tent flap whipped open, and a runner stumbled and covered in mud. "Captain." Sniper hit another patrolman. "Southwest ridge. No visual on the shooter." Silence. Elias slowly lowered the lens. "Let me go, sir." Rourke hesitated, not convinced but desperate. "Fine. But this is on you, Crowley." Elias nodded once, gripping the lens tighter. It was time to prove what everyone else refused to see. Snow crunched beneath Elias's boots as he made his way toward the southwest ridge. The forest beyond the perimeter felt suffocating, the trees tall and grave-like, their trunks black scars against the sheet of white. The air smelled of pine resin and gunpowder, 2 scents that had become indistinguishable in war. Sergeant Hale walked beside him, adjusting the heavy bar slung over his shoulder. "You really believe that cracked toy can find a sniper the rest of us can't?" Hale asked. Elias kept his eyes forward. "Not believe. No." "Well, if it gets me shot, I'm haunting you." The 2 men settled behind a fallen log overlooking the ridge. Elias unpacked the lens like a surgeon laying out tools. Hale scanned the horizon with a standard field scope, lips tightening. Nothing. Not even a glint. Elias put his cracked lens to his eye. The world fractured. Not disastrously, beautifully. The crack in the glass acted like a prism, splitting the winter light into faint slivers. The snowfields shifted in gradients of pale blue and silver. Shadows elongated. The air above the ridge shimmered faintly, rippling like heat waves even though the temperature was well below freezing. Elias adjusted his position. Something flickered, a short, unnatural movement in the distortion. "There," he whispered. Hale turned. "Where?" "I see nothing." Elias tilted the lens again. The refraction aligned, and suddenly the shimmer sharpened, revealing the outline of a camouflaged helmet tucked behind a cluster of rocks. "Sniper. 40 yards above the dead pine. Slight right." Hale blinked. That's impossible. Elias didn't wait. On my mark. His voice was steady, controlled. 3, 2 now. Hale fired. The bar roared and stripped bark and snow from the ridge. A figure jerked backward, tumbling down the slope like a discarded rag doll. 1, Elias murmured. Hale looked at him. What did you just say? Elias ignored him and scanned again. Another shimmer. This one higher, crouched behind a sleet-covered trunk. Second shooter. 20 degrees left. Hale didn't question now. The rifle barked. Snow exploded from the trunk and the second body slumped sideways. 2. Hale's voice trembled. Crowley, how many are up there? Elias didn't answer. He scanned, his breath still, eyes unblinking. The lens revealed 3 more distortions. Slight tremors of camouflaged bodies, almost invisible unless split by fractured glass. He exhaled. At least 3 more. Hale cursed under his breath. This ridge wasn't crawling, it was infested. Elias steadied the scope. War had ghosts. And now for the first time he could see them all. Elias shifted position to keep his silhouette low. Snow dampened every movement, muting the world until only breath and blood seemed to make sound. The crack in the lens caught a shard of pale sunlight and refracted it across his cheek like a brand. Hale braced the bar, knuckles white. 3 shooters, Hale repeated, steadying himself. Where's the first? Elias angled the lens. There. Between the forked spruce roots. Hale fired, a staccato burst. Snow puffed violently and a camouflaged figure jerked and collapsed. 3, Elias counted. He didn't know why he felt compelled to mark them aloud. Maybe it was control. Maybe it was horror. Maybe it was simply the only way to separate survival from guilt. The 4th shimmer came into view unexpectedly, a sniper shifting position. Elias snapped his fingers. Moving. Right ridge edge. Hale swung the rifle and fired before the enemy even settled. The man fell, sliding down a patch of ice like a discarded puppet. 4. Hale's breathing grew harsh. Crowley, this is insane. They're dropping like ghosts. Ghosts don't shoot back. Elias scanned. These do. 2 distortions remained. One was nearly perfect. Whoever it was stayed utterly still, nearly blending with the terrain. The lens only caught him because a beam of sun refracted across the crack at the perfect angle. He's good, Elias whispered. Better than the rest. Mark him. Elias exhaled, locking in the shimmer's contour. Left of the ridge notch. Slight elevation. Half buried in snow. Hale squeezed the trigger. Nothing. He fired again. Still nothing. Then, a single tremor. The shimmer collapsed, revealing the outline of a man who had frozen himself nearly rigid to avoid detection. 5. Hale exhaled shakily. 1 more. 1 more. The 6th was the hardest. No movement. No shimmer. Only a faint distortion in the air, barely visible even through the cracked lens. Elias's hands tightened. This one was watching them. There, he breathed, voice barely audible. 40 yards downslope. Behind the gray rock. Hale aimed. Be certain, he whispered. I am. Hale fired. Silence. Then a faint slump, snow shifting around a fallen body. 6, Elias murmured. The ridge was quiet. Too quiet. Hale looked at Elias with a mixture of awe and unease. You just took out a sniper nest alone. 6 of them. With your help, Elias corrected. No, Hale shook his head. Crowley, your lens. You saw what none of us could. Elias lowered the scope slowly. His hands trembled only when the tension faded. They were there the whole time, he said softly. Hiding in plain sight. And now the ridge, once a reaper's nest, lay silent. The forest felt different. Less haunted. Less hungry. But war had a way of punishing those who illuminated its shadows. The officers' tent erupted with noise the moment Elias and Hale returned. Radios crackled. Men argued in clipped tones. Maps lay scattered, marked with frantic corrections. Captain Rourke spun as they entered. What the hell happened up there? We heard bursts but... Hale stepped forward. 6 shooters. All neutralized. The tent fell silent. Rourke stared. 6? On that ridge? Yes, sir, Elias said, trying to steady his voice. A concealed nest. Spread across multiple positions. They were coordinating fire. How did you see them? Lieutenant Marks demanded. We've scanned that ridge for days. Elias lifted the cracked lens gently, like it was something fragile and holy. With this. Marks looked like he wanted to laugh, but Hale beat him to it, not with humor but with anger. I watched it myself. The lens works. I don't know how, but it works. Rourke stepped forward, gaze locking onto Elias. Explain. In detail. Elias described the refractions, the distortions, the shimmer patterns. He described the way the cracked lens split the winter light just enough to make camouflage surfaces warble at the edges, a defect becoming a detection tool. It wasn't science, not in the way officers liked. It was instinct sharpened by desperation. Marks slammed a fist on the table. We are not basing artillery coordination on a broken toy and an imagination. It's not imagination, Elias said evenly. If we use it to scout enemy positions, we can avoid ambushes, spot camo nests, and doom ourselves if you're wrong. Marks snapped. Rourke held up a hand. Enough. Crowley, do you really believe this lens can identify more than just this nest? Elias inhaled slowly. Yes, sir. And I can prove it again. Rourke paced, torn between military protocol and battlefield necessity. If you're wrong, men die. If I'm right, Elias said quietly, men stop dying. The tent remained heavy with silence, all eyes fixed on Rourke. But before he could respond, an explosion thundered outside, shaking the ground. Dust and snow rained from above. A corporal sprinted in. Captain. Mortar fire, from the east woods. Hidden battery. Rourke's eyes snapped to Elias. You see anything with that lens of yours? Elias tightened his grip. I can try. Then move. Now. Rourke didn't fully trust him. But for the first time he had no choice. The eastern woods roared with artillery fire as Elias sprinted with Hale and a squad of riflemen. Trees splintered. Earth churned under the bombardment. The world tasted like smoke and fear. Men ducked behind whatever cover they could find. Snow mixed with dirt until it looked like diluted blood. Elias slid behind a boulder, heart hammering. The soldiers looked at him, not mockingly now but expectantly. Hoping. Afraid to believe. He raised the cracked lens to his eye. The forest shifted again, bending light in that peculiar fractured way. The crack caught flashes of artillery burst light, turning them into streaks that illuminated odd patches of distortion. There, Elias whispered. A shimmer pulsed behind a screen of frost-covered branches. Then another. And another. 3 distortions clustered at different elevations. Mortar tubes camouflaged perfectly under netting. I count 3, Elias said. Coordinates, low ridge behind the spruce cluster. Hale relayed the coordinates to the radio operator. Moments later, friendly artillery thundered in response. Shells arced overhead and crashed into the woods. 2 shimmers vanished instantly. One remained, moving, dragging itself behind cover. Still one left, Elias said. Just 10 meters east. The correction was made. A second volley screamed overhead. The last shimmer erupted in a spray of dirt and flame. Silence. Then, a cheer rose from the squad. Elias lowered the lens, breath trembling. Hale slapped him on the shoulder. You just saved half the company. Rourke arrived moments later, panting from the sprint. Crowley, tell me you got them all. All 3 batteries, sir. Rourke stared at him with something close to awe. Your lens, it shouldn't work. But it does. He paused. I'm recommending you for commendation. And from now on, whenever you spot, we listen. Elias nodded, though pride didn't fill him. Only a quiet relief. A sense of purpose. The lens hung at his side, cracked but gleaming in the late afternoon sun as if it knew what it had achieved. War was chaos. Blind, brutal, senseless. But for Elias Crowley, the man with the broken lens, clarity had become a weapon. And today 6 shadows and 3 mortars had fallen because of it.